It's Mother Love coming to you live and in living color with Mr. Kennedy Rogers. And we're glad that you're joining us. Well, if you're listening to us live or you're listening to us later, just all you got to do is go to all the social media platforms with the big guys. Facebook, Twitter, X, I'm going to get it, YouTube, Instagram, all of those grams. Just log on. You can check Mother Love and Mr. Kennedy out whenever you feel like it because we are here for you. What we do is what I do is I observe and report. And the observation is I think we got a bipolar Supreme Court justices right now. Because first they said abortion is off the table, give it to the states and let them do with it what they will. So you just threw that away and threw us away and all the women over 50 years and the women to come to not have the ability to make their own decision about their bodies. Well, we all kind of ticked off about that and hoping that the Supreme Court would do something positive. Well, this is what jumped off yesterday. No, that jumped off this morning, where the Supreme Court said, "Oh no. Okay, we didn't did bad enough, but now we have the abortion drug. It's a two-drug protocol. Whenever somebody makes that choice, and the Supreme Court said because the FDA wanted to sue the Supreme Court or the Supreme whatever it was, the FDA said, oh, they don't need to have access to pills like that, and it's, the highest court in the land said, yes, they do. They can do that. So now all the Republicans who are all against abortion and women's right to choose, now all they shorts is all bunched up in a bunch and they got a super wedgie. Are they backtracking or are they trying to clean up the mess that they handed to the states about the ruling on abortion? Mr. Kennedy.
Neither. They're biding their time. Don't be fooled by this. Now, you can be fooled if you want to and say, oh, because they let it stand. Only temporarily. Only temporarily. You can be fooled if you want to, but this matter will come up again, and after November 5th, they won't vote to keep it available.
That's why it's important for women and young girls and the people that love women and young girls the right to make their own decision. It's not up to the Supreme Court or any court.
Well, it is because they will make it up to them.
Well, yeah.
Unless you vote other people and don't let people in office that do not have your best interests at heart. Now, you can be fooled if you want to and think because the Supreme Court said, okay, we'll leave it the way it is. But it wasn't a permanent ruling. It's only a temporary ruling.
So you think it's only going to go up until November the 5th, and then we decide who is in office and who's not, and who has our best interests at heart? Because it made the Republicans have made it very clear, and even some Democrats have made it very clear that they keep saying they want to follow the rule of law. But when you got rid of the rule of law, when you overturned Roe v. Wade, you took away a woman's right to choose. I am a woman, so how dare you think you could dictate my uterus? And now you saying that the Supreme Court, this is just like a Band-Aid on a big wound, and eventually it's going to suck up blood and just start spewing out again after November 5th?
Yes. I mean, don't be fooled. I mean, the only reason why they voted the way they voted today was simply to bide their time because they look at the polling, and the polling said if you keep pressuring women about abortions, it will make it harder for you to win in November.
Okay.
And the simple solution was, okay, let it stand for the moment. Okay, the same thing they tell you about abortion. They said, oh, when they was in their confirmation hearings, they told you they was not going to go back and change legislation that had already been decided.
And 50 once they got in, and they lied through their teeth. Okay, they lied through their lying teeth.
So then you honestly think that they're not going to come back once November 5th dust has settled to come back and revisit this again, and the next time around they're going to tell you no?
Okay, wait. Listen. Okay, I heard what you just said. Okay, so the ones who are against a woman's right to choose, You're saying the Supreme Court is just allowing them to bide their time before
to get elected.
wait a minute. And so now, then what they would have to do, these political people would have to do is have a complete about face and say, well, during the next few months before the election, I'm just going to, even though I've been saying and spewing that, women don't need the right to choose. We know better than a woman does. And you know how emotional women get once a month. And, then when they go through menopause and perimenopause, we just can't make logical decisions for our own pieces parts. So the ones that disagree, the ones that say we need to strike it off the books altogether, period, dot. So now you're saying that because the Supreme Court has pushed back on the use of this drug, that they're going to be quiet. And then when come November time, they're going to, so that then they would be lying from now until November the 5th. If they turn around.
And what's your point? Like they haven't lied before. They lied before.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so
that was my point. Yeah, right.
The point is, don't be fooled again.
Right.
If you know that this is what their agenda is, because
and they tell you.
They said we're putting it on pause right now. All we're doing is just pausing it because the election is coming up. That's all I'm saying about not being naive and foolish to think, oh, well, that this is a done issue, that, okay, the pill will always be available. No, I'm telling you right now, and you can quote me on this, if the Republicans take control of the White House, abortion pills will be banned, period.
So then again, I said, my point is, should that happen, then we could see how two-faced they are two-faced.
Well, anyway, what difference would it make?
You can't tell me. I mean, you cannot tell me that one Republican that I'm going to believe it. There's a Republican that's sitting in the chambers has not had an extramarital affair. I ain't gonna say they did or they didn't, but I would pre-venture to say many of them have said, abortion should be illegal because we say so. So you get to say this, and now you say, well, we don't think it should be legal. But now, okay, the Supreme Court said they're gonna hold off on the use.
No, they didn't. They didn't hold off
until November. So then they'll just be BSing their whole constituents because they
have not done that before. I mean, once again. If you look at what's happening, they're doing everything they can to win. Okay, this is an issue that is not a winning issue for them. So you said, all we did was just say that we're not banning that this particular drug right now. That's all they did. I'm telling you, as we sit here at this moment, if the Republicans win the White House, that case, another case, not that case, but another case similar to that will come up, and this time they will think differently and tell you, oh, well, the two cases are not the same. Only if you're foolish enough to believe it. Okay, if you're willing to believe what they said, I mean, they showed you they're willing to lie right to your face.
Right to you.
So if you are not naive to say, well, they won't do it again. Oh, no, this is a done issue. If you actually listen to all of it and not just the tidbits of what was said, you will see this issue will come back again. And it's not going to be favorable for women. Women can think what they want. You better be smart. They've already showed you their hand once. Well, they're trying to get more power, so you have no control over what they do coming ahead. Don't be fooled. That's what I'm saying. Do not be fooled about what their real intentions are.
And there are a lot of people who are very, very foolish because they continue to follow and be behind a convicted felon of 34 counts. Every one of them in the state of New York, he was found guilty on. That's the 45th president. And, he's out here just spewing this. And, I thought he lost his marbles a long time ago. But to keep peddling, his rhetoric and his viciousness, and it's not just the abortion issue, it's the voting issue. They want to take voting down where you need 11 different pieces of identification and don't live in a rural area. Oh my goodness, it's going to take you. You thought you walked.
So once again, don't be fooled.
Wait till you got to walk a long way to get the right to exercise your right to vote.
But don't be fooled then. I mean, they're doing. I mean, if you can choose to be fooled if you want to, you can pretend to close your eyes and say, I don't see what's being done. They're doing everything possible to get elected, and they told you if they get if by chance things fall their way and they get elected, they have something for all. I mean, the former
More
president
destruction of
has
the
told you
American
that
democracy.
his administration is going to be about revenge.
Re-
So now, how much more do you need to hear? I mean,
And
if
wait a
you're a
minute, just
reasonable person,
wait
are
a
you a
minute, let me,
if you are a reasonable person, and you're looking
and
at the
these
two
people think they're
candidates,
reasonable.
I know you're looking at the two candidates that are running for the office.
Mm-hmm.
One is telling you, I'm coming in and I want to exact revenge. That's my main reason for getting back in office is to exact revenge. If you put him in office, then no better for you because he's already told you what he wants to do. And you can make up all the excuses you want to say, oh, well, he'll do this for the economy. He hasn't told you anything about what he would do about the economy.
About anything, not about
Yes, no, yes, he has
reconstructing
told you
the
what he's going to do
infrastructure.
about anything. He told you he's going to exact
Okay,
revenge. So he has told you what he's going to
and he's
do.
not looking at
Okay,
any
and
kind of
so he
policy to
hasn't
help
wavered from
anybody.
that. He has not wavered from that.
And he still keeps, and they keep buying this. They keep buying his followers. Keep. I don't care what he says. I don't care that he's a convicted felon. I don't care that he got 34. He was found guilty 34 times in the state of New York, and he's going to file an appeal, and he's going to win the appeal. Okay, but we're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. You can't take that all the way to the Supreme Court without going through the Supreme Court of the state of New York. Now he can exhaust all of his attempts to for appeal and whatever, but they're like, you now they did say we're not going to be listening to this because it doesn't make sense. And he's been convicted of 34 felonies. I mean, and each one can get him 4 years apiece. And people don't think he's going to go to jail. He thinks he's above the law, and so do all the other people. Listen to that crazy guy Bannon. I don't care what you say. I do my 4 months in jail, and when I come out, I'm going to be a bigger beast than I am. He got had a rally in Las Vegas where it was over 100 degrees. People are passing out, and this is what I had heard. I heard that there was people were passing out at the rally. They were sitting in the sun like that for 3 hours until he showed up. And then when he showed up and he said, I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I don't care what you think. I just want your vote. And isn't it? I'm like, really? The man has told you to your face.
Okay, so why are you're worried about the wrong
about you.
Okay, but see, that's being worried about the wrong thing. You're worried about people who are following him irregardless. So why waste your time about people who gonna follow him no matter what he says, no matter what he does? We should be far more focused on not voting people in office to help him carry out the things that he want to do. That would to me make far more sense. You're focusing on the things that he's saying. He repeats. He says the same things over and over again.
Over and over and over.
I'm out
a
for
victim.
revenge.
This is a witch hunt. Y'all picking on me. The judge hates me. I think I'm just gonna go eat worms because everybody hates me.
But part of the logic is if you keep saying something, people will believe it because you keep saying it. Okay, he has a group of people that does believe that. I'm not saying.
And a lot of them are in jail now with serious.
And a lot of them are not. A lot of them are voters, and that's because he's trying to get reelected. Understand what is happening and move on. If you keep giving him the energy, the more you talk about him, the more energy because you're constantly bringing his name up. Move on from him. Okay, if you really want to get past all this that has happened, you have to be willing to stop talking about him all the time.
And all the time on every news outlet.
And so you can't put your energy on him. But put our energy and the other things that are happening. I mean, what the Supreme Court did was what the Supreme Court did to buy time. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm telling. That's what I'm telling people. Understand that all they do was just saying wink, wink. If you're foolish enough to think that because we passed on this right now, that it won't come back again, and that then we all of a sudden will have a different opinion.
Gonna bite you on the butt.
Don't be fooled. That's all I'm saying. Do not be fooled. If you truly care about women, about your daughters, about your aunts, your nieces,
and the democracy, the democracy in and of itself. This cat has said, I'm going to tear down the judicial system that he already weaponized. I mean, he done had, I don't know how many attorneys generals. And
that's what said stop. We once again, the Supreme Court, we don't want to talk about him. See, if you keep talking about him, that's where the focus stays. The Supreme Court is what we want to focus on because they're the ones who's either passing or not passing the bill. we don't talk about the Supreme Court, then people are missing out on what's actually happening. The Supreme Court is the one who makes the final decision, not him. Okay, now you got a phone call.
Okay, but no, I have to call it back.
Okay, we see somebody wanted to talk.
I know who it is. I'm gonna
Okay,
call you back.
okay, well then go back to your show. You know who it is, then move.
I'm trying to turn it off. Okay, you ain't gotta chew my head off.
I'm not sure. I'm just saying
I'm
move on.
trying to turn it off. It's off now.
Okay, wait a minute. Do you see the comments that were made?
What comments that were? No, I don't.
Okay, if
I
you
don't
look
see
up
the
on
comments on this side.
if you look up on the screen there, and the chats.
Okay. Oh, that's how I can see and privately talk with the host of the guest. I don't see what it doesn't tell me what they're saying.
Okay, what they're saying, you seem to be a bigger idiot in your lives. Okay, the idiot is him. We're being played by him as a country, and we don't have enough sense to know that we're being played. The people who don't want you to hear about it are the ones who try to pretend as though it's not happening. That he's going to all of a sudden treat people better. When has he ever treated anybody better? You cheated on all three of your wives. So if you don't even have respect for your own wives, how would I possibly think you got respect for me?
This is the same guy who said years ago that if his daughter was not his daughter, he would date her. I mean, are you serious? Is that really what you think?
Okay, see, okay.
And when you talk about morals and scruples, now to me that was all of his behavior has been unscrupulous. I couldn't even think of one good thing that he's done for the American people when he was in office. Not if you got one, tell me about it. I like, except for giving the richer, giving them a lifelong tax benefit. Now, can that be reversed too? That could be reversed, can it?
Say that again.
I said when he gave all the billionaires that big giant tax break.
Okay, all right, but once again,
where's all talking about him? Let's talk about what we're not
about
getting.
Other folks instead of him.
That's and it's a whole bunch.
We spending too much time on him though. So all the air is being sucked up about him, about nothing else. Like nothing else happens. Only what he's doing. That's all. That's what I'm saying. We need to move on from him. We need to just simply move on.
Yeah, and how do we move on when everybody, all the news media and all the podcasts and everybody wants to talk about it because he's at top of mind? And I'm like, it's more going on in the world than following this.
Okay, so we can talk about something else. We don't have to keep talking about him. I mean, there are other things that happen in the news besides him, though. That's what I'm saying.
Speaking of other things happening in the news, and I know this isn't on our docket for today, but in other news. What is your take on the conflict? Is it it's a war. It's not a conflict. It's a war. Hamas came and bombed Israel. Israel said, we fighting back. And now they're talking about accusing Benjamin Netanyahu and the head of Hamas they want to charge them with war crimes. Do you think that would be appropriate?
Yes. Because both of them are committing war crimes. Mm-hmm. One side is like it or not, both of them are committing war crimes. When you're killing innocent civilians, that's still a crime. Regardless of whether you blame the other side and say, okay, they're hiding, using these people as human shields. You're still killing.
To me, that was an act of treason. It was an act of war.
Okay, wait a minute. We, as most Americans and most other people around the world that do not live over there in that part of the world, mm-hmm. do not truly understand the conflict that these two groups are having, and to sit back and be on the outside looking in and saying, well, now I want to make a lot of sense of what's happening. Both of them are hurting one another. So to sit back and say, well, one is okay and one is bad, you're still killing a lot of innocent people because one, you refuse to have a Palestinian state. Mm-hmm. If you want the fighting to ever end, telling one group that they have to be subservient to another group forever, to eternity, does not vote for trying to resolve the issue.
So when did or when has Israel said that we don't want to be a democracy? We want to run everything. We want to tell the Palestinians where they can live, who they can live with, and we want to have control over them. And Hamas, which has been named as a terrorist group, has said, well, we're gonna put all these women and children, all these old men that we done snatched out, that we done killed up. The other day when I heard one of the statistics about how many people have perished on the Gaza Strip during this conflict, 40,000 people. I didn't even know that it was big enough to hold 40,000 people. And then you got another million people who are just, stranded out there, in the ether. And even people, we have a protest here in the United States. We have a protest on our college campuses. This completely reminds me vividly and painfully about the war in Vietnam, when we were at each other's throats, as American citizens. This is a terrible war. This is a wonderful war. It was, oh, look at what we're doing. We went over there and we almost destroyed Vietnam. We almost destroyed that. And a lot of the servicemen left those women over there pregnant, and then they couldn't get here with their child. I mean, is that the same thing we're getting ready to see, about the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip? Because they're going to have to
go. Two different circumstances.
How so?
Well, if you talk about Vietnam, okay, that was a war against communists and democracy. Two different things that they were fighting over.
Okay, so what are they fighting over for Israel and the Gaza Strip and Hamas, when they were the ones that said, well, we're going to jump on Israel, like they're not going to fight back, and they did.
Okay,
and it's just
a lot
horrific.
Well, it goes back to a lot of people don't look at all the history and how certain events happen, and a lot of times they happen for a reason. Benjamin Netanyahu was on well, he's been accused of several crimes already. Okay, one of the ways to stay in power is never for those charges to ever make it to court.
Because Israel is a democracy, yes. They're a democracy.
So unfortunately, if a war happens to start, well, then that's been put on hold. So, as people talk about conspiracies and think of why some things happen, maybe this all happened because it was a way of helping to keep him in power.
So you start a war?
It's not the first time. It's not the first time a war has ever been started because somebody wanted to stay in power.
And we see that doesn't work all the time. The same thing with Ronald Reagan. When he said, hold off. He said, hold off on releasing the hostages. And they, until after the election, they held off returning hostages back to America after the election. And I think that's what kept Reagan in office, because he was, he could, bang on his chest and, I'm the president who brought all of the hostages home from the or whatever they were doing. I've done this. Okay, and you see what happened. And it's really something. This was the same cat that, how can I turn this off? It's the same guy that, he's the same guy that said, just wait till after the war, and then everything will be fine, and I'll be in power, and you don't have to worry about any of this. And okay, and he stayed in office. He was elected twice. And I was getting ready to say, it's a shame that he had dementia and Alzheimer's. And this is the same cat that closed down the mental health institutions in America because he said we didn't need them. And that created a whole groundswell of homeless people, because when you got somebody who's been institutionalized and who is being treated for mental health issues, for mental illness, and then you let them out here in the world when they've never had to really, really take care of themselves, and they can't, and they don't. They can't and they won't. Some people can rise up above that. But when you're taking somebody from a mental institution, and I know what I'm talking about. I worked in a mental institution, and it was, I couldn't even imagine the women that we were working with at that time. If they let them loose and let them out of the mental health institute, what would they do? What would they? And we had we had patients with all kind of different mental health issues, and they had, some of them had no gross motor skills, some of them didn't have fine motor skills, and so
Okay,
be able to teach them, and then you're gonna put them out there in the world. Look at the mess we still walking through.
okay, but wait a minute. So who you blaming? Okay, wait a minute. Reagan was in office, what, 20 some years ago now.
I know.
But we're talking about what he did. You've had a lot of people come after him. Now, they didn't notice the mental illness that was going on, and that we needed to have facilities for people.
No, they didn't
You
see
tell
that.
me
They
no
didn't
other
even look at
president,
that.
no other president noticed that.
And if they did,
I mean, think
they
about
were being
it.
beaten
You
down
talk
by
about what
people who
Reagan
didn't want
did.
that to
Wait a minute.
happen.
But look at how many presidents there have been after Reagan,
Mm-hmm.
and to say that none of them noticed that this mental health crisis that's going on in this country, to want to
Well, they
solve
wouldn't
it.
even accept mental health issues as a condition, as a disease. So we had to
Okay,
wallow
I'm
through that.
not disagreeing with that. I said, but nobody
I
else
got you. I got you. Not
and said, okay,
Carter, not what's the name?
we're gonna open up hospitals and facilities to help the mentally ill. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay, I understand what Reagan did.
Mm-hmm.
He
But
closed
then
them
when
down.
after him,
But
and we
it's been a
saw the
lot of presidents
destruction.
after him, and any one of them could open them back up again, though.
Well, they were
Any other person after him, any other Congress after him could have opened up
They didn't
mental
even
institutions
address
to
it.
help the
I don't
mentally
think
ill.
they even addressed it, and if they did, they did. Congress did, and the House, they just wanted to ignore it. Well, if we ignore it, it'll go away. It's like the 14-year-old girl that she swearing to her parents she never had sex, but her belly is getting bigger and bigger because she's pregnant. But she figured, okay, I just wear bigger clothes. They won't notice. They won't notice me throwing up in the morning. I just pretend it's not there, and it'll all go away. And it doesn't go away. It does not go away without action. And like you said, no president after him, not Jimmy Carter, not Bill Clinton, not President Barack Obama, not the George W. and H.W. All of them had the opportunity and to address it. And we
That's
don't know what
right.
went on behind closed doors. I mean, now in the 21st century, where we're actually admitting that the United States has a mental health issue. People they don't have the life skills. They don't have just, basic human skills. I mean, one of my jobs at the institution was to get them up. When they get up, a lot of them didn't want to wear clothes. And so we had to learn to tie their clothes up on them. And I'm telling you, we had this one patient, I don't care how many pieces of fabric you tied her up with, she was like a mentally unstable Houdini, because whatever we put her in, she could get out of it. Whatever we try, and she had some verbal skills, but not a lot. She understood yes, no, and come on, let's go eat, let's go down the stairs, let's go to the art. She understood that. She just didn't want to wear any clothes. And so we were constantly trying to figure out, how do we keep this woman's clothes on her? And she had another habit. She was because people in mental institutions, they don't have the mental acuity to understand about their clean bodies or the importance of hygiene, the importance of being able to go to the bathroom and wipe their butts. She would just crap wherever she was in the day room. And I'm telling you this from a living witness. Whoever came up with the phrase that said, when the crap hits the fan, it's gonna go everywhere. And only way somebody could even came up with that is they had to see crap hit the fan. And one of the young ladies that we had on our wing, she was tall, and she was built like a truck. She was strong. She was strong enough to knock two of us out of the way. If she wanted us out the way, she could do it. So we had to learn to keep her calm. And and she had one phrase she used to say all the time: "I'll slap your head right off your shoulder. I'll slap your head right off your shoulder." And come to find out, that's how she was being treated at home. If she said anything wrong, they would slap her, and then she started becoming more violent. So instead of having to deal with her and finding some place where she could go for good health instead of a mental institution, they opted for the mental institution. Whole time I was there, I never saw not one person come and visit that lady. Now people came in and got the lady who didn't want to wear clothes. They came to visit her, and they gave us some tips on how you could keep her clothes on. And one of the things they said was put her blouses on backwards and button them up button her up backwards. She figured out how to do that. She figured not just tear it off, because at first she didn't tear it off. She methodically sat there on the floor and unbutton that blouse from the
Okay.
back. And so they weren't gonna let her, she couldn't be delivered back to her, reunite with her, let's say delivered, be reunited with her family. Mental health issues have now come, if you want to say, come to the forefront. And when you have people talking about politicians' mental acuity and are they safe? Are they sane? All of us could use a little mental health help every now and then. I mean, I think if anybody needs to ever go into therapy, it should be women, because of the stuff we have to deal with and the stuff that we put on other people. And nobody is saying anything about, all they do is talk about how old, the candidates are. And hopefully, if we live long enough, we'll get to be old people and we will get to make the decisions. Well, we can make the decisions now by going and registering to vote and going into that voting booth and vote your conscience. Vote for what you believe is right for you and the rest of the nation. And that's what they want us to think. Oh, what you all don't know what you're talking about. Y'all don't know what you're talking about. We can mess with the voting machines and we could do this, that, and the third with all of that. You need to understand. So when they came in, the Supreme Court said, well, we'll let the medication stand for now. And see, and I kind of sort of like thought about that with their preparing themselves for the bigger picture. So they're going to calm down. And then if they come back and, through the rest of the campaign trail, they'll go, okay, well, that was our mistake. We didn't mean to do that. We are now for a woman's right to choose. And then as soon as they get reelected and they get back in office, then they say, okay, my bad. We didn't really mean that. We didn't really mean that for you. You think we're going to get a my bad, or we're going to get it kicked off of us?
I told you, as we sit and talk about the issue today, if the Republicans win in November, yes, the pill will be banned. That's what I'm saying.
We have to stop that.
I'm not mixing words. I'm telling you that if they get elected, yes, it will happen. So if you're concerned about you having any say so about your body, you should not vote for them. Plain and simple. They've showed you before. They'll look you in the face and lie. If you're crazy enough to vote for them, and know that they will look you in the face and lie about what they want, not what you want, then that's on you. Fool you once, shame on them. Fool you twice, shame
on me. And
because they showed you at every turn that their concern is not your concern. They're telling you how you should feel. They've not at one time said we're gonna pass a law that says that any man that get a woman pregnant has to help raise that child for the next 18 years. Why not? If you're putting the burden on a woman to say that she can't have an abortion, that she has to have this child, then why don't you put stipulations on the person who helped put her in that position to start with?
There was
so women are not looking at that and saying, well, wait a minute, that would kind of make sense to me. If you're forcing my hand about what I can do or cannot do, why come I cannot force your hand and say, well, if I have to do this, then you have to give financial support for the next 18 years, irregardless. There is no bankruptcy.
Well, now goes to 26
There's no
years.
getting around it. Plain and simple. That's what you have to do.
I was reading this story the other day. I saw it on the news, and it was a husband and wife, and the wife had she was pregnant, and she had some serious complications with the pregnancy. Her doctors, specialists, other people, who had an unbiased opinion about her health, who could come in and look at the facts and what the deal is. And her fetus died inside of her. And the state that she lived in would not allow her to have an abortion with this dead fetus inside of her. And when they said the health of the mother was at stake, they said if they kept that fetus in her any longer, she could develop sepsis, and sepsis is very detrimental to a pregnant woman and her fetus, because that fetus can sit in, and they opted this. The state legislature said, oh, well, she can't have an abortion. She can't get rid of that fetus. The doctors are telling these politicians, well, she have to have the baby. And she was so sick. Her husband you could just see the pain in his face. And they wanted to start a family more than anything. And like he said, I do want to start a family, and I know my wife does too. This is not, you can't force her to carry a dead fetus that will not grow and develop into a viable human being. You know, and that was like when the guys go, oh, well, life begins at conception. Okay, well, if you believe life begins at conception and you shouldn't have an abortion, why do we have so many guns on the street that can kill people? And you telling
Well,
a woman
what
what she
guns
can do
has
with her
nothing to do with the
body?
abortion. I
What?
mean, once again, guns has nothing to do with abortion.
Yes,
You
it
know.
do. Because you might not think
Okay.
so. You might not think so.
Okay.
But I know that it could be very detrimental to a woman's health, a daughter's health, a niece's, a child's health. I mean, when you got a 12-year-old being raped by her grandfather and she gets pregnant and you tell her family, well, we know better than you. She's 12 years old. Well, she was smart enough. She was old enough to have sex. She wasn't old enough to have sex. She was 12. She couldn't make an informed decision. Her grandfather raped her repeatedly. And when her family, her mother and father and all them finally started coming out and saying, this is what her grandfather is doing, the court said, well, okay, well, that's how it happened. And, you know, she just gonna have to have that baby. Right. Who gonna help her take care of that baby? Since you making that decision, you make sure I get what they call it when you got child support for every month for this child being could be born with special needs. You don't know. You just hope and pray you have a healthy baby.
Okay, so once again,
they ask women when women are asking when they have a baby, do they got all their parts? Do they got all 10 toes? All 10 fingers? Can they see? When our son was born, I had to have an emergency C-section because he was having a party up in there. And when he came out, he was so, they said they had never, when they pulled him out, they said, this kid is really alert. And so I said, well, can he breathe? Can he cry? And they went, I'm looking right at him. He's fine. I said, I want to hear him cry. He didn't even holler real good. He's like, oh. And I was like, everything is going to be all right. And that's something that no man will ever understand. You can be as compassionate and as empathetic as you can. Men cannot understand the magnitude of what our bodies go through to carry a baby to full term. Oftentimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And to not take into consideration this woman's health and tell her husband and her, well, you know, in this state, well, we're just not going to do it. He had to take his sick wife to another state. And if you have a problem, they have a thing called DNC where they go in and they scrape your uterus out and scrape all the, you know, the membranes and out from the pregnancy and what have you. Oh, she can't even do that. Oh, she need to do what we tell her to do. And I'll make like 10-to-1 odds, and this is just me and my thinking. The ones that are raising the most hell about it, they done got somebody pregnant and wanted her to get an abortion. And then when she said she wouldn't, it was like, okay, well, we got to get this off the books. Because to me, it's like they think of self-preservation. Oh, my wife found out I got 3 outside kids and another wife. Papa was a rolling stone. She can't know all of that. I have to protect my image as much as I can.
Well, that has more. Okay, that's keeping someone in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
That's still shame on them, not shame on you. I'm saying once you know that these are things that are happening, don't turn a blind eye to what you see and know that it's happening in front of you. To continue to pretend as though all of a sudden, oh, they will have morals later. Okay,
right.
If they didn't have morals to start with,
and their first 60 years on the planet,
the fact that when I talk about morals, okay, if you
we're gonna get to that because I got a story I wanted to tell you about and get
all
to that. Just hold on to that thought because we talk about a moral compass all the time. This is another Pandora's box, as it were, that I think technology is opening up without having enough rules and regulations to make sure they can regulate artificial intelligence. Now, there's a $86 billion nonprofit organization that is allowing AI to be there and allowing and what they do. Let me just, because this was
you might want to actually, so you get the story right.
I mean, I'm just
because
frustrated
it does really
with
matter.
the story. Okay, wait a minute, I got it.
It matters. It matters because for this reason, it, you know, AI is here to stay. Like it, don't like it, agree with it, disagree with it. AI is here to stay. A simple solution would be that AI has to mention whenever it is you hear it that it is AI. I
Right.
mean that's a simple solution.
Okay, but
But
the
but
technology. Wait a
but
minute, let me finish. Let me finish. The technology that is out there that this company is using is a nonprofit. They want to allow their employees to buy into this $86 billion AI artificial intelligence technology, and they're saying this $86 billion company says that they got this down to such a fine science. They can make you think that you're talking to a real person and that you're interacting with a human being and you're interacting with artificial intelligence. And
okay.
people's concern is okay, they could use my voice, they could use my image and make it sound like it's me, Mother Love, saying it, and make people think you're really talking to Mother Love. They get the whole
Right.
nuances,
I,
and
I,
I
I
think that's
understand that part.
dangerous. I think that is absolutely dangerous.
And I said a simple solution
Hmm.
is that AI has to announce as AI that you're listening to.
And that you're watching because it's affecting everything.
Watching, listening to, seeing,
Hmm.
however you receive an AI, that it has is mentioned so that you, the person who's receiving the information, know that this is being AI generated,
Artificial intelligence.
being generated. Okay, the reason why they don't do that simple thing because it is very simple to just simply say announce that you're AI before you do anything, whether it's
Mhm.
video, it
Yeah, because
mimic your name,
you could take the
mimic.
phone on Chat GPT and you could say, write a love song for Mother Love. 1, 2, 3. Love song for Mother Love. Lyrics is
Okay,
all right there,
and all
right
I'm
there.
saying
It's
is
kind of
all
scary to me. It's
okay.
a
All
good
I
help, but how do we as the consumer um put our trust in a company that we know are giving us fake information? It's
they're
artificial
not giving you fake
intelligence.
information.
Huh?
Once again, it's not fake information. Okay, if you look at it, it's not fake information. The fact that they're mimicking your voice to sound like you, it's not fake information. It's deceiving you. It's they're
That's why it's
using this.
artificial intelligence.
Okay, but they can simply do that by having it to announce that you're listening to AI.
You're
You listen
watching
to
AI.
AI generated video, AI generated voice. I'm mimicking Mother Love, but before I mimic Mother Love, I have to say this is AI mimicking Mother Love. You can write that into the
Hmm.
program.
Hmm.
Choosing not to write that into the program is because you want to deceive people. You want that illusion of deception to continue.
This
Because if you don't catch that it's not you actually you, then you have deceived. But the
okay, but
company is
wait a minute.
allowing that to
Wait,
happen.
hold up. We then in that vein, then the internet, all these social media platforms where people can catfish each other, pretend to be somebody that they're not. All these bullying comments. I remember a young girl. She took her life because she felt like she was just being utterly bullied. And come to find out, it wasn't the girl in her class that she thought was doing that she thought it was. It was the girl's mother because the mother didn't want her daughter getting in any trouble. So she started sending her all these horrible, why don't you just take your life? Nobody likes you anyway, whatever. And she felt so beat down and so isolated by this adult pretending to be somebody that she wasn't. This young girl took her life. And so it was a whole big brouhaha in the court system because the court, did she really, aid and abet to her committing suicide? How can we stop somebody from doing that? Is it the woman's fault who was sending her this information and bullying her on the internet? And whoever it was that was bullying her was wrong on his two left shoes. And what the court said is that, well, they really can't prove that she aided and abetted, and they really couldn't prove that she was guilty of
Okay, okay.
manslaughter. And
Once
so
again,
then, so like that's the rules are still the rules are still being brought up and how they're going to maneuver through this. And could somebody be responsible for another person's suicide when they were pretending to be someone that they're not? That's just seems like another branch of all these social media platforms. You could pretend to be somebody that you're not.
Okay, the fact that you can pretend to be that comes out to morals and scruples. Once again, what kind of morals do you have? Okay, the mother chose not to have morals. She did something that even her daughter was not aware of that she was doing. I
No.
mean, for them not to convict the mother for her part, her role, and this young lady committing suicide, it's the court system missing the ball. In
Well,
my
they don't have
opinion.
rules. There were no
Okay,
rules on the
you don't.
books.
Okay, once again, you think rules are made only once and they're never made again? You can amend rules, you can change rules as the
But that
times
didn't
change.
happen. That's my
You have
point.
okay. Whether she was not the first mother that ever did that. That was not the first case that you had ever heard of a mother or a person pretending to be somebody else to lure. Just like all these guys, that's what do you think the word catfish comes from? It's because you're pretending to be somebody else to lure another person in because you're pretending to be somebody else. Catfishing. The
And,
fact that the mother pretended to be another student at the school to trick this other young lady and into harming herself, that's the mother was still wrong. It doesn't
and you
make
think
the
she?
mother
So
right.
you
And to
think
say
she
that
should have been held
there's no
liable?
laws. I mean, common decency is a law. Common decency.
Common decency is not a law. To be a decent person is not. To be a hateful, ugly person is not against the law. Until you
Oh,
commit, and that
so
crime that was not
but
on the books.
politicians can catch up with the times. As if to say
That's
that
what I'm
politicians
saying.
can no talk and chew gum at the same time. They can. Okay, as
It's walking
technology
chew
change,
gum, not talking chew gum.
it's just as stupid to pretend as though they cannot change the rules. As
Or make the
technology
rules
changes, the
because
fact that you cannot change the laws and say, okay, we see what's happening, and not to address it so that more people are not injured is because most of the time you are benefiting in some kind of way because maybe you have stock in that company, so you don't want to change how they conduct the business because you want other people. Women, if that woman could get away with it, that encourages somebody else to try the same thing because she wasn't punished. If she's not punished for it, then why would I get punished for it? I did this. If I did the exact same thing that she did and say, well, there's no law in the books now to prevent me from doing it, then it must mean that it's okay to do it.
and
It's
it's
not
not.
okay to do it.
It's never okay to lure a child
Okay,
into
well then, but it said
any kind of unscrupulous activity. Any kind of unscrupulous, like the child predators, these sex traffickers that are pretending to be 17 years old, and you want to lure some young person
they
to
have
a
laws
hotel
against
room,
that though.
and they're pretending to be that
But
kid,
they
and you
have
come in
laws
and it's
against
some
that though.
fat guy with a six-pack of beer.
They have laws for that as well.
Now they do.
Okay, they had laws. They had laws before now. Okay,
They didn't have
AI.
law because
Wait a
nobody.
minute.
This is before.
Okay, what I'm saying, look, they made laws back then based
Mhm.
on what was happening then. Okay, as technology has changed, you have to update the laws
That's
to
what I'm
deal
saying.
with okay, what we're in agreement then. I said that the mother should have been found guilty because she did aid in the bed. And just like when they went after OJ, he was found innocent of the murder, but then they turned around and sued him in a civil suit and said, oh, he was still responsible for the
Mhm.
death. Okay, he wasn't convicted of her death. He was found innocent of her death. But then they went back and
He
sued
was
him and
found
said
not guilty.
he was okay. He was so not guilty is not guilty. Right or wrong, good or bad, whatever side of the fence you fell on. If once you're acquitted, because that is the law of the land, that you can't be retried for something because that's called double jeopardy.
I know that.
Okay, the fact that this lady used Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, whichever one she went on
She
to
was
trick
using her
this young
daughter's
lady.
account. She was using her daughter's account.
Okay, but on what platform though? Okay, because not just one platform. It
No,
had to.
because I'm sure Facebook, Instagram, and all of those other
Okay,
sites
once
that you
see.
can interact with people.
Okay, once again though, see when people don't know. Okay, I said plain and simple. The law should catch up. We know that we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all these social medias. The not to make laws that govern these institutions is a failure of the government, of the politicians, where they spend all the time with all this other crap that they're doing, instead of doing something. You know this is a new industry. You know people will take advantage of it. That are misusing. You're not writing laws to punish the people who take advantage of the situation. The mother took advantage of the situation and said, I'm going to pretend to be somebody on Facebook if it happened to have been Facebook. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, I'm just mentioning that as one of the
Well,
platforms.
that's the where I
If she,
found. I saw the story on Facebook.
okay, the point that I'm making is that when the story comes out, unless people know, unless politicians know, if there's not a law, that there needs to be a law, because it's wrong to allow somebody to say, well, I'm defending my daughter by pretending to be another child to manipulate another child into doing harm to themselves. That is simply wrong. And if the politicians don't stop and take the time to correct that, well, then it's on the politicians as much as it is on that woman.
Well,
If we don't govern ourselves, how do we expect to be governed? You did the mother govern herself and say, "Well, I'm not going to do this horrible thing to do the child because instead of going to the child or going to the child and her mother and saying, this is what your daughter is doing to my child."
mm-hmm.
Going to the school and getting the school involved and saying, "Okay, I'm going up to the school and I'm letting the school know exactly what this child is doing to my child," so that the school is on notice. No, she didn't do that. What she chose to do is to go on social media and befriend this young lady and to get her to do something that was simply wrong, to commit suicide because she pressured the girl because she didn't like what was being done to
she
her
was
daughter.
she was a bigger bully than her daughter was, and that was
Oh,
the issue. And when they brought it to uh, the school said, "Oh, we'll take care of it," and just never did anything. Never even tried to find out who it was, if it was the girl, if it was some, Joe
okay,
Blow.
well then again, now I tell you, remember I mentioned to you quite often about whether we have teaching morals and scruples in school, and you tell me quite often that this is something that should be done at home. How can you was that mother teaching her daughter morals and scruples, or was she choosing to this is how I choose to defend my daughter, and I'm doing something that's simply wrong. I'm hurting another child, but I'm doing it because I say I'm defending my child.
She was a bigger bully, you know.
And the fact
And,
that
and sometimes people,
we have laws against bullying. We do have laws
yeah,
against bullying.
yeah. Well, now we do. This was a heartbreaking story. This is just a sidebar, and I just want to send prayers up to all people who have lost loved ones through senseless, senseless violence. Two young boys were wiped off the face of the planet. Two brothers. They were walking across the street. A woman plowed through them in the crosswalk, killed both of them, and ran and kept going. So when they found her, because they got cameras every place, well, they found her and she went to trial. And the little boys could be like maybe 6 and 7. They were little boys. And the fact that she hit these kids while she was drunk behind the wheel of a car and ran. She got tried, she got convicted. They gave her 15 years.
Okay,
15.
the law says, wait a minute, you have to
She
look
was
at the
drunk.
law.
She made a decision to get behind that wheel.
Okay, so are you talking about the law or are you talking about her?
I'm talking
Okay,
about her and her
okay,
moral compass.
okay. Well, that's why you make laws for people who do these things that and should not have done these things. We have laws. That's why she got seven. She got 7.5 years per child. Maybe the law only stipulates that's how much time for a vehicular death. That
Homicide.
no, how much time you could actually spend in jail. Okay, she got 15 years to life, which means that you know, hopefully they're hoping that in the first 15 years, she will really understand and come to grips to what she did to by taking these two lives, and that she will feel remorse and that she will talk about remorse when she comes up for probation. Because in order for anyone,
Or parole. Don't they get parole?
parole, to be
Mhm.
able to get out of jail, you have to show remorse, retrition that of the act that you committed. If you don't show it, that's why you get turned down at the parole hearing. If you don't come in and talk about okay how you've changed, why
Mhm.
would we let you back out into the public if you're not changed from the way you thought when you went in?
Well, I'll
Because
just say whatever I can do. I'll say whatever I need to say so I can get my parole. Okay, yeah.
but everybody
It's just
doesn't get
I mean
parole
it
though.
wasn't just it was the little boys, it was their families, it was her family. I mean, people make these horrible decisions, and when it results in tragedy, and then they want, oh, please forgive me. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't set out. I'm sure she did not set out to hurt
And she
anybody.
didn't.
She
I mean,
didn't.
so
Okay,
think about that.
to
No, she did
me, the
not.
fact that she ran. It's the fact that she ran. These are two children dead in the street, and she ran. So her moral compass was way off the chart.
hundred
You know,
percent.
kill somebody's children and you run because you're a coward. There's no moral compass there. I think she should have got a life without the possibility of parole. That's why I can't sit on that stuff.
Well, I mean, that's your feeling. Okay,
Mhm.
what I'm saying is that based on the law, okay,
My
did it?
feelings are the only ones that count. That's
Okay,
what
with your
Judge
foot.
King
Okay,
said.
with it,
Okay,
you
wait a
should
minute.
have been the judge. You should have been the judge then.
Wait a minute. Listen, can you just hold your horse? When we're talking about morality and scruples, we always want to blame somebody for something, quick fix or whatever. So it was this young lady. She was sitting in a little bistro someplace, where she could see outside, just enjoying her whatever she was doing. And this old white guy, real wrinkly, got his hat on, and his coat, and he inadvertently drops an envelope. So she heard the envelope fall, and she, turned around to see what was the deal. So she picks up the envelope, she looks in it, and it's full of cash. So she gets up out of her chair, and she, she was like this close to the parking lot. She gets out of her chair and she goes outside to, see which way he went, because she figured he couldn't have went anywhere that fast. He was too old to move. So a young guy came around and asked her. She said, he asked, she said to him, did you see anybody come out here? Did you see which way the old man went? And he said, what old man? I ain't seen an old man. She said it was an old man, and he dropped this envelope full of money, and it could have been for a medical bill or his rent or anything. And he had said that he was going over to the hospital. So and the hospital was like right across the street. So she gets, well, not across the street. Well, she gets in her car. She drives over to the hospital. The young guy who asked her, well, why don't you just keep it? He doesn't even know where it is. If he lost it, he lost it. That's just how it goes. And she said, no, this could be something that he really needs. And she went into the hospital, and his thing was, the young guy, he said, I got to get there before she did, because what the young guy did, the old man came around the corner, and when he pulled off his mask and his hat, it was a young guy. And he just had everything balled up in his arms. And she said, did you? He said, no, I didn't. I didn't. And she never even put the two together, him and the old man. So she gets in her car to drive to the hospital. He gets in his car and drives to the hospital. He gets into the room where she's going before she gets there. So when she gets there, he's in the room, right? And she goes, did you see him? And he sat down and talked to her. He said, well, why is it so important to you that you've tried to find this guy who dropped this money? She said, because that would be the right thing to do. It's not mine. He obviously needs this for something. Nobody just have $1,000 just laying around that they don't need and just drop it on the floor and keep going. Well, they got to talking. And he actually put his mask up and he goes, I'm the old white guy. And it was a black guy and a black lady, and he said, I was the old white man. And she was like, oh my goodness, and she went to give the money to him. He said, no, you keep it, because you were willing to allow your moral compass to take you to a place that you knew you needed to do everything you can to recover this and find out who it belonged to. And he introduced himself and he said, it was mine, and now it's yours, because you stepped up. You didn't think, oh yeah, well, I'm just gonna take it. You just forget that old man. Let me just. And the fact that it was one of the ones that, just does my heart so much good. That
And there's still good people
like
in the world. That there are good people.
that they still do good works. They still do good
but
work.
if you're raised up to be honest and trustworthy, it goes a long way in what you'll do later in life when a situation is presented to you, that you will be able to do the right thing. But if you never had a chance to do it, or was not taught about doing the right thing, maybe you would not have. I mean, it would be nice to know that there are a lot more people like her in the world than there are not. That would be a nice thing to know.
Well, and that's what keeps me uplifted about humanity, because we've come a long way. as people, as human beings on this planet, we got a long way to go. And we do have parameters and we do have rules and regulations. You know, when we were growing up, one of the first things they tell you when you could go out on your own, don't you embarrass me. You better not embarrass this family. And what you see here, when you leave it, just let it stay here. We had that going before, you know, whatever happens in Vegas happens, you know, stays in Vegas. And that's
Yes.
how we were raised. You know, you don't tell people your business. You let them see the best part of you. And my mother used to say, you don't know who I know. You don't know who I know, and you don't know who I know that knows you. And see, that was enough to strike fear in me, like right there. I remember cutting school one day. I'm way on the other side of town. I'm in the rich white people's district. I know ain't nobody gonna know me over there. Who pulls up at the traffic light right next to me? I'm in the passenger seat. You know how you look around in the car, and I looked up, and it was one of my mother's closest friends, who was a firefighter. And I just couldn't even move. I just couldn't even move. And so the whole time, you know, I was trying to shake it off, shake it off, shake it off. And we got ready to come. We get home. My mother and my whole life never said, "How was your day at school?" That was the day I cut. So if I opened up my mouth to say anything, I'd be talking out the back. You know how they say you talking out the side of your neck? I'd have been talking out the back of my neck. All right, Mr. Kennedy Rogers, you know that we love you. Thank you for your candid opinion about many things. And remember, in this, babies, no matter how big or tall, short or small, thick or thin, matters not what skin you're in. Everybody needs some mother love now and then. Squeeze my face. They're going to